Well, hello, my fellow friends, my fellow neighbors, and my fellow shining stars. Our next trolley stop is here, and our next trolley stop is now. Welcome back to another all-new episode of the Empowered Publicity Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. To be precise, we have reached episode number 4 here of the program. Myself, John Masiulionis, the manager here at Empowered Publicity. And of course, each and every month, joining us here on the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, we never travel alone. The trolley always likes to rack up a lot of mileage, specifically from San Diego, California, where we reside, all the way to one of our favorite places, our favorite neighborhoods in the country and in the world, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. You remember this gentleman for many years, who played the beloved Mr. McFeely in the long-running hit children's television program on PBS, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Of course, we know him, we love him, as David Newell joins us here each and every month. David, welcome back to episode number 4 of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. Happy June to you and your family. Are you enjoying your summer?
I am enjoying the summer. As a matter of fact, I am working on our fish pond. We have an outdoor fish pond by our patio, and I'm getting it ready and going to supply it and with some more koi. And after our bookcast, I think I'll be off to the koi pond to buy a few more koi. So yes, I'm enjoying the summer.
That sounds like a perfect activity for the summer. So we hope that all of you, our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, and of course our fellow shining stars, are enjoying your summer as well too. If you are new to the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, each and every month David and I take the time to deliver heartfelt reviews of the newest heart-centered children's books from some of our favorite neighbors and shining stars in the kidlit community across the country and around the world. And David, on this episode of the Bookcast, we are going to be reviewing not 1, not 2, but 3 brand new children's books. So if this message is already inspiring you, if you're saying, John and David, I am so stoked for the summer, I'm helping my little ones to enjoy their summer reading. If you feel that this message needs to be shared with someone in need, because here at the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, not only are we huge proponents of reading to your little ones, but also children's literature, and yes, independent and children's bookstores and libraries. So if any or all of this resonates with you, we encourage you to subscribe to Empowered Publicity's official YouTube channel and to share this very special trolley stop that is episode number 4 of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. And if you missed our first 3 episodes, you can head on over to our official website, empoweredpublicity.com, or stay connected with us via our official YouTube channel. Enjoy the wonderful books that we've shared for the children thus far, David. But I know that the trolley, we head from San Diego to Pittsburgh. Let me get the position. I said, here's San Diego, here's Pittsburgh, and then we're going from Pittsburgh to the Rhode Island area, where we're going to be sharing and talking about Corey Ann Abreu's award-winning children's book, Before I Was Born. And David, over the course of, the pandemic and throughout everything with COVID, there's been a lot of new little ones that have been coming into the world, and there's many more that are obviously on the way. Such a beautiful job that Corey does talking about the whole birthing process from, conception all the way to when the little one is brought into the world. Her illustrator, Samantha Williams, also has done a wonderful job putting these illustrations together. David, if you can take us inside the pages of Before I Was Born.
Well, I'll do my best. It's not a long book. And before we start, on the very cover, there's the award that the book has received. And I believe it's called the Mom's Choice Award.
Correct, yes.
So, Corey Ann, congratulations on getting, it says honoring excellence. You can't read it there, but that's what it says on the little gold seal.
Correct.
So, Corey, congratulations on that. And I'm not exactly sure what the appropriate age is for this book. I guess it depends on the child. I've made some notes here, and I'm going to refer to them. It'd be helpful to read to a child who is already number one in the family when another baby is arriving. That is one way to use it. Another way would be when those questions come up is where did I come from? That would be another ideal way to use this book. But I think it really is designed so that the parent can read it to the child, and maybe each page can be a discussion. For instance, and it's written in verse too, which makes it sort of a musical. The first page says, everything alive starts out small as can be, including vegetables, fruits, and babies like me. That's how it starts out. And as I said, I'm not exactly sure the age. If a child would be, let's say, 3 years old, and a new baby is coming into the family, it might be helpful just to sit down and go through this book. And maybe you wait for the appropriate time. I think maybe one child could take it at 2 years old, one at 3, and so forth. It's really the parent's judgment how to use this, because they know their child. It describes the progress of a baby's growth beginning at 1 month. And here's how it starts. I'm barely the size of a papaya seed. Mommy makes sure that I get the nutrition I need. That is a page for discussion too. You can stop and ask what the child may be thinking, or maybe they won't say anything, but they may be taking something in. So I think it's a book you can just nurture. It may take 3 minutes to read. It could take a half hour to read, depending on what discussion happens. That's what I like about the book, that it provides a vehicle for family communications.
It is, and I think that it's also one of the things that comes to mind, David, is that it's a conversation starter, because one of the very sensitive subjects is, you have the infamous, birds and the bees talk, like how are babies created, and moms and dads will kind of share it in different ways depending on their comfortability, their resonance. And I feel that one of the great things that Corey's done an amazing job of this book is conveying the joy and the love that babies bring us, especially for first-time parents or parents who have had multiple children even.
That's right. We have three children that are grown. We have grandchildren now, and I don't remember the exact book we used. I think one of our daughter is the oldest, and we used the book more with her than I think we did the next two. I can't quite remember, but I know it was a book that helped us. And it was not so much each word in the book or each picture in the book. It was that, but it was also the communication that it brought between the parent and the child. That's what I think is important about the book.
Agreed.
It brings the family together. I was just wondering, some children may not know what a papaya seed is, but it is small. On each page, they'll have a picture of a fruit or a vegetable, and the color illustrations are wonderful, and they show the small size of the papaya seed.
Very vibrant.
And each page is another month, and each page gives the opportunity to talk about any questions the child may have. Now, I wrote down maybe a question or two that they might have. Oh, here it is. I think as the story progresses, and the different size of fruits are introduced, you could maybe make sure that the child understand that the fruit being used as an example is, I guess, the symbol for the baby growing. Yes. Younger children may think that maybe the papaya seeds are in the, but I think that has to be established. Correct. But that again is a bonding that you can explain that. Right. And so, for instance, the papaya seeds are the first, and the second month is a grape. And what I like too, that they or Corianne includes the mom's reaction. In the second month of grape, and mommy hears the heartbeat. That's included. And then the third month is a plum. And it says, I scratched my nose and sucked my thumb. And the plum, of course, is bigger. And you see that as you go through the book. And the fourth month is a pear, and the eyebrows and eyelashes. And this is all subjects to discuss. The fifth month is a mango and can wiggle around and tell if it's a boy or a girl. And then Corianne adds, and mommy is full of joy. So mommy is always part of the story. The sixth month is an ear of corn, and the baby can hiccup. In the seventh month, an eggplant hears sounds. Mommy tells me she loves me, which I like. You know, I like that inclusion. The mom is included. 8th month is a squash, has lots of energy. Mommy says, oh my gosh, when the baby kicks or something, the energy starts. And the 9th month is, of course, a bigger fruit or vegetable. I don't know if a watermelon is a vegetable or fruit. I think it's a fruit.
I think it's a fruit.
And it's big and strong. And finally came out for growing so long. And so the watermelon is that symbol. But again, I think it has to be clear to the child the watermelon is not inside. It's, and I think that can be explained. Absolutely. But the 9 month, the baby comes out for growing 9 months, and I'm in mommy's arms, which is a nice completion, I think. And mommy and the child are bonded. So page by page, they go through a month and they use a vegetable or a grape for the size of the child. But all along, there's also a picture of the growing baby too on the page. Maybe I can pull one out and just show you, because I think it's, well, there you go. That's the 6th month, and you can see that right there they have the size approximately of what the baby might be. So I think it's a good book to use, as you said earlier. It could be the birds and the bees time, or it could be the new baby time. But the other thing I'd like to add, and what the parent can add to it, as you're reading it, you can also remind the child, when this is a new baby coming into the house, that it would be helpful, I think, to remind the child that the baby will sleep in the crib, and maybe it was your crib. And the baby may get into your things and pull pots and pans out, and no one will yell at them, because that's what babies do. They're learning. And no one gets angry and says, put them back. And remind the older child the baby is too little to know, and the baby has a lot of things to learn. Mm-hmm. And when the baby is bigger, the older child can be pulled in to help the baby learn how to crawl or to walk or ride a bike and climb. And can help the baby understand pretending too, maybe play dress up with, this is the older child now. But I think as the book is being read, the parent can remind the child, as your sister or brother grows, you can help me take care of the baby. And remind the older child, the baby needs them for sad and lonely times. Sometimes the baby can be sad, and brothers and sisters are good for helping the child. And the other thing that
too, yeah,
that I think is important, that families are good for caring for each other in all kind of ways. And when a baby arrives at your house, to remind the child that they're the older one, and you have your own place in the family, and that place will always be yours. And I think that is what the book, you can add on to that as you read the book. There's a lot of stories you can use Corianne's story and then elaborate with your own story too. So it's really a very helpful book, don't you think, for families to use at the right time, right time.
Yes, very much so. And I really enjoy too how Corey was inspired by her own two children, Cole and Carter, and the close relationship that she shares with both of her boys. Is there really is this immediate bond that she established with them right away when she knew that they were coming into the world, and the bond became unbreakable as they became older, right? And I think that it's sometimes moms and dads, they'll always even though their little one is growing and they'll become a toddler and school age child, teenager, going to college kind of thing. There's still that part of the lens that always sees the little one, right? The little inner child kind of thing. And I think that, the importance of celebrating the joys of motherhood. I know that, we just celebrated Mother's Day a few weeks on back. Being a mom is something that's very special right now. During the whole COVID and COVID pandemic time frame, David, we would hear the term essential workers quite a bit.
Right.
And, moms and dads, that is a job that is essential because you keep calling sick. You got to show up every single day, and
That's right.
And you're learning along the way. And one of the other things that I enjoy about this book too is that, sometimes, children's books can be a little bit longer. Sometimes you just need a little bit of a quick read, right? So if this is, let's say like, a perfect book, maybe let's say before like a nap time, or, maybe there's just like, a little pocket of time that you have during the course of the day and you want to have some engagement with your child. Or if you're looking for that really big conversation starter that can open up something, really wonderful, this book does a wonderful job. And also want to mention our neighbors at Beavers Pond Press did a great job of putting this book together, which, by the way, not only for Corey Ann's Before I Was Born, Corey Ann has got a tremendous other children's book that's out called Socks, which you see the image of socks on the screen and like, which little one doesn't like to play with their socks? I remember, David, back in the 80s, tube socks, I think they were called. Tube socks were the big deal, right? So, I would remember, making sure that I had, the right socks on there. But we have the links below as to how you can purchase your copy of Before I Was Born and how you can interact with Corey Ann and the wonderful work that she's doing for children, parents, families, educators across the country and around the world. Of course, if Amazon is your preferred online vehicle of choice, you can also leave a 5-star review if you feel guided to do so for either Before I Was Born or Socks in the process. Or of course, you can go to your local library, see if the book is available, your favorite independent or children's bookstore. And if it's not in stock, kindly ask your librarian in the children's department or whoever's in charge of ordering books at your favorite independent or children's bookstore to kindly ask that they stock their copy of Before I Was Born. So David, the trolley went from San Diego to Pittsburgh, and to be precise, Massachusetts, the Massachusetts-Providence border. We are heading out from North Attleboro, Massachusetts, out to the greater Chicago area for our second book that we're sharing here on episode number 4 of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. Bartleby the Brave, which is written by Victoria Hyla Maldonado and illustrated by Ronald B. Botts Jr.
And there it is. There's Bartleby himself.
Bartleby is such a kind, loving soul. He's a tiny sparrow. A sparrow's a bird, if people are wondering, David, John, what is a sparrow? And he just wants to enjoy his favorite bird cup competition, but he runs into a bully cardinal, and this is kind of really where the journey begins, so to speak. David, if you can take us inside the pages of Bartleby the Brave and share this wonderful journey that he's on that helps him to remember that he's brave.
There is the first 2 pages are there, and it's fun because you can look for. There's so many things in the picture that as you read, you can have the child identify different parts of the tree and the nest and so forth. And he's reading to three young chicks and telling a story of Bartleby. And the story is interesting because what is called, I'm trying to check it out here, it's a contest that the birds are going to be having.
Correct.
And it's the Brave Bird Cup. And what the Brave Bird Cup consists of is, in this forest, there's a road in the forest where a lot of traffic comes through. Not like a freeway, but traffic comes through, trucks and cars and so forth. And the Brave Bird Cup, what the birds have to do is to swoop down and narrowly miss the car and scoop up, and off they go. That's the Brave Bird Cup. Does that make sense? Does that it's, in a way, it's sort of ironic, because yesterday I was driving on a similar road near us. It's a country road, a lot of trees, and not only a bird came swooping down just missed my windshield, and then I went about 20 feet further and there was a deer across the road. So maybe the Bird Cup competition was going on in our neighborhood too. At any rate, that's what it was. But Bartleby wanted to see this, and he had a favorite branch of a tree where he would go and perch and then look down at the road. But he went to his favorite branch, and there was a bully cardinal sitting on the branches, and basically said, "You can't have this branch. I'm sitting here and I'm going to be watching the race from this branch. You find yourself another perch." So off Bartleby goes. But before that happens, the bully cardinal's grandfather flew over and said to the bully cardinal, "Hey, isn't it about time you entered this contest and show us how brave you are?" Something to that effect. And I think that got the bully a little upset. And he said, I'll show my grandfather that I'm brave. I'm gonna enter the contest." And off he goes. And Bartleby was watching all of this. And so the cardinal starts on his descent to the Brave Bird Cup, and something happens. He misjudges, and he sort of ricochets off the top of the car. It's an accident. It wasn't a perfect swoop like the other birds have done, and the cardinal lands on the road. And Bartleby notices this because he's perched there watching the races, and a truck was roaring down the road, and he said, "I've got to get him off the road to safety." So he flies down. Bartleby pulls the cardinal to safety, and the truck whooshes by, and the big, huge puffs of air that the truck made as he went by tumbled Bartleby around. He finally woke up to find I think it was was it the mayor, or was it the man who was in charge of the awards? But nevertheless, whoever was in charge of the awards, Bartleby found the cup in his wings. In other words, he was the brave one. He saved the cardinal. He saved the day and saved the cardinal and got the award. I want to see. I wrote one more thing down here. Oh, that was it. The grandfather of the bully cardinal was the judge. That was it. And he's the one who said, "You saved my grandson's life." And a cheer came from all the birds, and Bartleby won the trophy. That's sort of how it ends. And as the story finishes, Grandpa says that the Bartleby became a brave hero that day. Now, this is Grandpa who's reading the story to the chicks. And the three sparrow chicks says, "That sparrow was you, wasn't it, Grandpa?" And indeed it was. And the last sentence says, whether you're big or whether you're small, when you care about others, you're a hero to all. And it was, and now I think the age for this could be from preschool through early elementary. I think it has elements for both, but it has a little whimsy to it. It has a lesson. It has a lesson learned too by the bully cardinal, and there's a lot of elements in here that can be discussed as you're reading the book to a child or to a class. You know, the book we just read, about the baby, really is more individual. I think you read it to one child. Right. This book, Bartleby the Brave, could be read to a group. To a group or class, yeah. Yes, and they would have questions too. And as I said, the Bartleby's story sort of happened to me too when the birds swooped down on my car. It's funny that it would happen on the day or the day before we were going to be talking about it, that a bird just swooped down, and it wasn't quite as disastrous as the cardinal, but it swooped down close enough that he sort of ducked, but he missed my car, thankfully. At any rate, I think it's a interesting book to read to a wide range of age groups. Do you have any thing to add to the story or the? Yes,
thank you for asking, David. Yeah, it's I love the fact that it's a big children's book, and bigger in terms of size. So, for example, Corey's book, and this, each book is, I believe, is perfectly the size that it's meant to be. So some books, they might be more square in size, some might be larger rectangular shapes kinds of things. I really love the illustrations. Ronald did a wonderful job sharing different sorts of elements, the different kinds of birds. I think that, especially if, little ones are, learning about nature for the first time, or if they're wanting to learn more specifically about birds, the different kinds of birds. There's the sparrow and the cardinal and I believe the bluebird or the blue jay, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, here's the whole lineup of them in those pages.
It's a cornucopia. It's a plethora, an abundance of birds, David. And I feel that, two of the messages which are very important, they're timeless. One is the message of kindness and being kind to other people. You, of course, we're dear friends with Mr. Rogers, of course, the beloved Mr. Rogers Neighborhood, and in almost every single episode of the Neighborhood, in every single college commencement speech or talk that Fred did, he talked about kindness. He talked about the importance of being kind to yourself and being kind to your neighbor, because a lot of the disconnect that we experience in today's society still is as the result of either not being kind to ourselves or not being kind to other people, or a combination of the both. And I think the importance of the message of bravery, and I know that we were talking about this, David, in the Empowered Publicity Green Room before we began, but let's take our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, and of course our fellow shining stars, back to the year 1986. I believe I was 5 years old at that particular point in time. There was an episode of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood that was, it was this beautiful, I don't really even know how to just articulate the joy that I had, but leading into the recording of our episode today, I watched one of the episodes that I have on one of my several Mr. Rogers Neighborhood DVDs, and it was the episode talking about making and creating. So, Fred lands up meeting either a construction worker, someone who's putting together a brand new playground for kids, and everyone in the neighborhood is, gathering together, hammer nails, getting that playground just the way that it needs to be, with the tires and the slides and sanding the slides. And so Chuck Aber was going in the neighborhood of make-believe to look for someone who was brave but didn't know it. And of course, many of our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, and our fellow shining stars remember Daniel Striped Tiger. And he was the meek and mild, lovable character in Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, where he was very strong and courageous, and he didn't know it. One of the things I wanted to have you talk about is, and this is kind of twofold, but could you share with us just, a little bit about that message of kindness and bravery, and why you felt it was important to share during your time on the Neighborhood with Fred, and really how you feel that these messages ring very true today, and how Victoria did a wonderful job in sharing both of these messages in Bartleby the Brave.
Yes. Well, Fred taught sometimes by example. And just by asking someone how they're feeling today, or bringing a present to a neighbor, or saying, I'll walk your dog for you today if you're too busy. Something like that is I think kindness that can be demonstrated and in turn duplicated by children. That's how Fred used kindness, by example, I think. And I think there is a story that I'll tell you very briefly. When Fred was studying his child development, for his child development degree, he would go into daycare centers and observe them at play. And a parent would bring in what they wanted to show children each week, what that parent did for a living. One parent was a sculptor, and he brought in this big chunk of clay and started to make these wonderful little figurines, and the children would follow him. They caught what he was doing. And there's a Quaker saying that Fred always, and I think this is the way Fred taught on television: attitudes are caught, not taught. If you if whatever you love to do and you do it in front of children, they'll catch you. They'll catch what you're doing. And they certainly did from that sculptor. They caught his love for his art. And for the rest of the semester, Fred said, their art projects were just 10 times better than they were before the parent came in. My point being to all of this is, in a way, that's kindness too. Just doing something in front of children that you love doing, and they'll catch that attitude. And I think that's what Fred did on television. He did wonderful, kind things for people without saying, look, I'm being kind. Here's a lesson in kindness. He just did it. And I think children caught it. Does that sort of explain how we use kindness, or how Fred used kindness? But he went out of his way in his daily life too to be kind to people, to just say hello. It was the real thing, and I hope that who knows, the children who are watching the Neighborhood, Daniel Tiger now, we won't know for years yet if all of that has sunk in. But we're doing our best to use television to teach kindness by example.
I did also want to mention briefly, David, to be precise, and this is courtesy of our friends and neighbors at neighborhoodarchive.com. So the episode was February 7th, 1986. The episode was entitled Making and Creating. So I was actually 4 at the time, David. But if for those who are curious about this, so in the neighborhood of Make Believe, X the Owl has a cloud cover for his door thinking that the flying rocking horse might land on it. You know X the Owl, right? Still stumped on how to get the flying rocking horse down. Chuck Aber, neighbor Aber, seeks out the advice of Cornflake S. Especially, Corny tells neighbor Aber that the only way to get it down is to find someone who is brave and does not know they are brave. That person is calling out to the flying chair, 81351. You've had your fun, but now you're done. Come on down right away. Now, the platypus mound, Anna is building a playground and suggests that Daniel Striped Tiger may be the one that Chuck Aber is looking for. But heading to the clock, Daniel shares that he does not feel brave, but neighbor Aber convinces him otherwise through a song, Are You Brave? Now, feeling brave, Dale instructs the rocking horse to come down out of the air. So there's a little synergy that we're feeling with Bartleby and with Daniel Striped Tiger.
Yes.
But go ahead, David. Go ahead.
One more thing and if some of your viewers don't know the neighborhood or have seen it lately, Neighbor Aber is a cast member on the program, and X the Owl is one of the puppets. Yep. And the neighborhood is still showing in your neighborhood. You have to search it out, but it's also on PBS Kids. There's an app for it, and you can watch the programs there. So that was a good tie-in to Bartleby. We've tied the neighborhood in to Bartleby, but Bartleby again was written by Victoria, Hyla, and I don't want to mispronounce the last name.
Maldonado.
And illustrated by Ronald B. Botts Jr., right?
Yes, that's correct.
And it really is a festive of illustrations. There's that in itself is a little story too. You could say, look for this, look for that. What's over in that corner? Is that a bird's nest? Look at the cardinal. Where's the robin? And so forth. You can do all of that. So that is Bartleby the Brave, right?
Absolutely, it is. And one other thing that talking about the message of bravery, David, I think one of the things that we always love to do here on episodes of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, a little tip of the cap to, of course, Fred. Children and adults, us big kids, we need to be reminded that we're loved, we're special, just the way that we are. So I don't necessarily know if I can sing this in the way in which Fred did, so I'll actually share the lyrics to Are You Brave, which is a song that Fred shared so beautifully, Mr. Rogers. Are you brave and don't know it? Are you brave and can't tell? Are you brave and just don't show it while others know it very well? Are you brave and you wonder? Are you brave and you doubt? Are you brave above and under, even when you're inside out? Tell me, won't you tell me? Tell me, are you brave? And I think, I also give credit to Victoria because she actually now has a second children's book that's actually come up. So this was her first children's book. And a lot of times when you're stepping into new territory for the first time, whether it be becoming a parent for the first time or writing your first children's book, there's a sense of courage and bravery because you're entering into something in your life that you've never done before. And there can be fears and doubts and insecurities, but I feel that both books, help to be able to quell the doubts and the fears that you might have about, for Corianne, about, well, am I going to be a good mom? That could be one fear. And then, same thing with, Victoria, both of these books were Victoria's and Corianne's first children's books. So they were very brave and they're doing amazing work, David, for children, parents, families, educators across the country and around the world. So the trolley's gone from San Diego up to Pittsburgh to Massachusetts to Chicago, and we head all the way back to the West Coast out to just outside of Los Angeles, California. I am super stoked, David, to talk about the second installment in the Yahooty Who series, Yahooty Who Celebrating Differences. Now, you might be wondering, John, David, what is Yahooty Who? And
there's Yahooty Who.
And that is Yahooty Who Celebrating Differences, as you now see on screen. Have you ever wondered who turns on the light in the refrigerator or who helps your garden grow? Take a look in this book and learn all you need to know. Yahooty Who is a fantastical introduction to the mischievous yet helpful world of Yahooty kind everywhere. Leave him a sock and discover all of the wonderful ways your Yahooty will help you around the house. So one of the co-creators of Yahooty Who, Jen Oloo, she had a very close relationship, I believe it was with her grandfather. And they had this wonderful bond that they shared. And she would ask, Grandpa, how does the bread become toast? How does the toilet flush? How does, how does the water flow through the pipes? How are things put away? And he would always say, it's Yahooty. So it was this family legacy, this story that was passed on from, I believe again, it was Jen's grandfather to Jen, and she, as well as her co-creators and colleagues, Michael Rodriguez and Ray Hodjat. Yahooty Who, the first book came out several years ago, and just now Celebrating Differences has been released. Super, super colorful, very uplifting, positive, electric, vibrant energy, and such a great message, David, especially with what we've been seeing in the world over the past, couple of years, especially the importance of celebrating differences. So could you take us inside the pages of Yahooty Who, Celebrating Differences?
Well, I'll do my best. Yes, you're right. It's a celebration of differences, and we'll see that as we get towards the end of the book. But before discussing the book, I thought I would look up Yahooty, what the name Yahooty meant. And there is it said, I looked up, and I wrote this down, I looked up the name Yahooty, and it said that Yahooties have strong personality. There is a name, an official name of Yahooty. Could be a person's name. Strong personalities. They are energetic, charismatic, ambitious, and focused. And you'll see how this plays into the story later on. And such abilities help with self-confidence and help Yahooties tackle all difficulties and solve problems. Well, they do solve a problem in this Yahooty Who book, and as the story progresses, we'll find out more about this. But Liam is his family, and they celebrate the sun. I guess that's symbolic, celebrating the sun, and that's important. And Liam is excited because his friends are coming over to play, and they're all going to bring their Yahooties. Now, again, Yahooties are socks, a sock puppet of sorts, but they all are individual. Each child has a different Yahooty that they're bringing to play over to Liam's house. And each Yahooty has a name, and Liam's Yahooty his name is Max. That's the name of the Yahooty. And Liam's mom and dad have worked for a long time preparing and decorating and cooking and helping Liam for his friends when they visit. Well, the big day arrives, and they all bring the Yahooties to Liam's house, and it was time for sun noodles, sun cookies, sun dancing, and booming sun beats. Now, again, this is written in verse, and as you read through the book, it's very musical, and it all sort of works together. And as you said, it's a very colorful book. Well, there's the front of it. There gives you an example of the color, and there is a Yahooty, and there, I suppose, is Liam, right? And, well, all of a sudden, Liam felt sad and ashamed, and he went upstairs, and he dropped his Yahooty, and it seemed that all his friends didn't like the sun cookies and the dancing, and they just didn't seem to appreciate it, and that upset Liam. So he went upstairs, and all of the games and the cookies and dancing celebrated the sun. And he felt angry and ashamed, went upstairs, dropped his Yahooty, but his friends suspected something was wrong, and so they followed him upstairs, but they left their Yahooty puppets all downstairs. And here's where the sort of the plot thickens. It's almost like the toy shop coming to life in a way, because somehow when Hooties are alone, they somehow come to life, and it's not known how that happens, but they do. That's just something you have to accept. And so the Hooties gather around, and they plan a plan to help Liam. And Liam's Yahooty said, teach others about who you are. If we join together and learn from each other, acceptance and love will spread. Now that goes to back to the definition of a Yehudi. They're resourceful, and they helpful, and here's what they're doing, and they're solving a problem. And the problem being of Liam being very upset because he didn't think his friends enjoyed the celebration he planned for them. Then all of the Yehudis joined in the fun, and they explained why Liam's family celebrated the sun and why they had sun cookies, sun games, sun dancing, and so forth. As a result, the Yehudis formed a friendship circle, and the children found an empty box. And they built, and you can see this in the book, they built a forest that had sun and trees, and they talked about its wonder and glory. And they learned the importance of what the sun was to Liam's family, which I think was interesting. As a result, the Yehudis, and I wrote this down so I wouldn't forget it, made the children understand that differences are good.
Yes.
The differences that Liam's family loved to celebrate the suns and eat sun cookies and sun dancing and so forth. And then they all finished upstairs around the little forest they created and the explanations, and they ran downstairs, and the Yehudis jumping and playing with joy that they couldn't hide. They had sun cookies, sun noodles, sun games, laughter, and funny sun names. So let me see what I wrote on the very last page. I had something I wanted to share. Oh, it says, the last page, a lesson learned from the Yehudis, always smart and clever they are. Celebrating differences, which the Yehudis taught, brings everyone together. Wouldn't that be wonderful if we could have Yehudis at the United Nations?
I was just going to say, maybe if we could have, some Yehudis in the Senate and the House of Representatives, different other countries and nations around the world. I really love it. And just, again, there's a Yehudi for everyone. There's Max, there's Ticker, there's Aqua, there's Tara, and there's Zap. It's for example, there's different Jewish holidays, like there's Rosh Hashanah, there's Yom Kippur. During the holiday season, there's Christmas, and there's Hanukkah, and there's Kwanzaa. Sometimes it's very, it would be easy to say, well, I celebrate Christmas, right? But necessarily, I don't celebrate Hanukkah. It would be very easy, David, just to look down on someone that doesn't necessarily celebrate the same holiday as you. And I think, again, just about the message of kindness that we were talking about, the importance of being open to where maybe necessarily if you don't, understand a person's cultural beliefs or whatnot, but you allow them to do what they feel is in their highest and best. And it's something that's very special to them. So like, I know, for example, growing up, I'm part Polish, 50% Polish, 50% Lithuanian, David. I'm not sure if I ever shared that about myself. So on Christmas Eve, we would have what's known as the Wigilia, which is Polish for the meatless meal. So we would have different kinds of fish, different kinds of pierogies, whether it be potatoes, sauerkraut, cheese. My grandmother would make bean and bacon soup. But the purpose was that particular night, you weren't supposed to eat meat, quote unquote, right? And there could be a lot of people that would say, like, John, come on now, like, how could, you didn't have the sausage or the ham or any of the delicacies. And I would always tell people, I save that for Christmas Day kind of thing. But again, just imagine if we were all the same, right? If every one of us did the exact same thing, we would be like, it would kind of be like, George Orwell's 1984 to a certain extent or whatnot, where it's just like, we're all the same. And it's so important to embrace differences, because again, it just seems like maybe we're putting out the simplest of things out there, David, but a lot of the conflict and the chaos and the stress that happens in the world happens as the result of when people are not kind to one another, and we're not embracing one another and embracing our differences, celebrating our differences, so to speak. So it seems that we're covering a lot of ground than just 3 children's books here on this Bookcast.
Oh, I agree. And the definition again of the Yahooty name: energetic, ambitious, and focused. And such qualities, when you think of it, the Yahooties help tackle all the difficulties and solve the problem. It was interesting too that they used the sun as the holiday. They didn't have to pick any other holiday to make their point. The sun was a very interesting symbol, I think, mm-hmm. for the lesson that the Yahooties taught. Did you know there is more? You can download Yahooty coloring sheets by going to YahootyWho.com. Yes. And that's worth a try. And I did that. I checked that out. And you can follow Yahooty on social media with your own, and make your own sock puppet creations too.
Yes.
Oh, and it's interesting too. I'm sure I don't know if this happens to you, but it happens to us all the time, especially when our kids were growing up. When we did the wash, we would put all the kids' clothes in the 2 pairs of socks. Both socks would be going into the washer. When they came out of the dryer, inevitably there was a sock missing, 2 socks missing. I don't know what happens to socks when they go into the dryer, but nevertheless, we kept near the dryer a little plastic bin, and when there was only 1 sock that came out, a mismatch, it would go into the plastic bin, and we'd have mismatched socks in that bin. And when we never found the other one, invariably there would be a puppet made from that sock that was mismatched, and we couldn't find the other. So perfect. That might be a family project. When you have the dryer to do the family wash and there's socks that are mismatched, keep them and make your own Yahooty. It could be called Kenmore.
Yes, there's
or Whirlpool.
I absolutely love that you shared this, David, because I actually hold in my hands a copy of the Yahooty Who Celebrating Differences Coloring and Activity book. And we're actually excited to be able to give away a copy of this, our first giveaway on the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, David. So to one of our lucky shining stars that is tuning into episode number 4 of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, you can connect with us via our official website at empoweredpublicity.com, and you can simply contact us and say, John and David, I enjoyed episode number 4 of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, and I'd like to be entered into your random drawing to win a copy of the Yahooty Who Celebrating Differences Coloring and Activity book, and you will actually win a copy of this amazing coloring and activity book. I really love, my favorite part is the creating your own sock puppet, by the way, which is great. I also want to give a special virtual air hug to Jen and to her family. I had the opportunities when I was visiting Los Angeles. I believe it was 2 years ago already now, David. It's approaching 2 years since I returned back to San Diego, and, for the first time in 15 years prior to that. But I spent a week in Los Angeles and had the opportunities to have a wonderful lunch with Jen and her family. And they brought the little Yahooty characters with them, some of the sock puppets and whatnot, Ocho the octopus. I had such a great time. And again, the fact that Yahooty Who is doing so much more than just these books. There is, there's certain children's books that are just books, and there's certain things that there's things that grow and expand beyond that. So, feel free to head on over to YahootyWho.com. There's so much here that your little ones can enjoy there in the process. And again, you can purchase your copies of all 3 books: Corianna Abreu's Before I Was Born, Victoria Hyla Maldonado's Bartleby the Brave, and of course, Michael Rodriguez, Jen Oloo, and Ray Hodjat's Yahooty Who Celebrating Differences. You can leave 5-star reviews for all 3 books on Amazon, if that is your preferred online vehicle of choice. Or of course, you can go to all 3 of the authors' websites as well. We've included all the information below in the social media. You can stay connected with Corey and with Corey and Victoria, as well as Jen and her team at Yahooty Who. And of course, as well, if your library, your local library, your favorite independent or children's bookstore where you reside do not have their copies of Yahooty Who, Celebrating Differences, Bartleby the Brave, and Before I Was Born, kindly ask that they stock those books, because they are true treasured, empowering reads that your little ones will enjoy, and more children will continue to enjoy as the years go on. So David, this has been such a wonderful experience. I hear the trolley, and of course, when you hear the trolley, you know that it means it's time to go. We always like to let our listeners and viewers know that I'm very blessed to reside right by the San Diego trolley here in San Diego. We do want to give a little tip of the cap, of course, to some of our favorite neighbors out in Pittsburgh. That's where, of course, where David still hangs his hat. But Empowered Publicity's Neighborly Reviews Bookcast is proud to support Reading is Fundamental Pittsburgh, the Pittsburgh chapter of the oldest and largest national non-for-profit children's literacy organization in the United States, which helps to provide children from low-income households in Pittsburgh and in cities all across the country with the necessary resources, motivation, and opportunities to inspire, to cultivate, nurture a lifelong love of reading. Last year alone, David, did you know that Reading is Fundamental Pittsburgh actually helped to put over 80,000 books in the hands of over 23,000 children in Pittsburgh?
Wonderful.
So you can make your donation, because we are proud to support each and every month here at the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. We are proud to support Reading is Fundamental Pittsburgh. You can make your donation if you feel guided to do so. No donation is too small. No donation is too large. You can head on over to riffpittsburgh.org/donate. We have that link as well in the description of this episode, so you can simply click on the link. Again, wonderful organization to help and support their mission for the children of Pittsburgh as well in the process. So David, again, it's just so important to be able to support organizations like Reading is Fundamental Pittsburgh, like your local libraries, like children's and independent bookstores, because if it wasn't for these sorts of organizations and resources, a lot of our children across the country and around the world would really be deprived. They would not have the access to these sorts of books in which they're able to, as the result of having local libraries and independent children's bookstores, and Reading is Fundamental.
Yes, and I'm glad that all of the books we read today or talked about today have a online component too that you can also visit, and it's a nice combination, I think, because online is here. It's not going away. So let's try to combine the book, the hard copy of the book, along with other activities that may be online. But Yahooty is certainly we had quite a range today, from the book about the arrival of the new baby to
Bartleby,
Bartleby, and now the Yahooties, who are quite comical in their own way. And this book too could be read to a group of children.
Yes,
as Bartleby can, whereas the Before I Was Born, I think, is read best to an individual. I think that's the way to use it. But nevertheless, they're all available at your local library, or soon will be if people ask, right?
Yes, that is correct. And again, this has been such a magical trolley stop. Raise your hand if you have had fun watching episode number 4 of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. David and I were holding up our hands. We hope that your little ones are holding up their hands, and that you and the inner child within you have enjoyed episode number 4 of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. So if these messages of Before I Was Born, Bartleby the Brave, and Yahooty Who, Celebrating Differences, if episode number 4 of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast has inspired you, if it's brought more joy into your life, if anything, you now say, you know what, I'm going to spend a large part of my time not only being outside and enjoying the summer, but also reading, because remember, this is the summer reading season. We're doing our part to be able to inspire all of our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, and of course, our fellow shining stars, our little ones, that summer reading is very important. It serves as a beautiful bridge leading into the back to school season, because sooner than we know it, kids across the country are going to be back inside of schools, and, the wonderful books that your children enjoy are going to be able to help to really set them on a positive trajectory for the upcoming school year. So we encourage you, if you already haven't had the chance to do so, to subscribe to Empowered Publicity's official YouTube channel and to be able to share what was this very special trolley stop, episode number 4 of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast on your favorite social media platforms of your choosing. If you are a children's author, if you would like for us, David and I, to be able to share and review your brand new children's book on a forthcoming edition of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, you can head on over to our official website that you now see on screen at empoweredpublicity.com, or connect with us via any of our social media platforms that you see on screen. Facebook and Instagram at Empowered Publicity, Twitter at Empowered_PR. We also want to give 2 tips of the cap as well in the process. One to one of our favorite neighbors here in San Diego, California, Laura Kavanaugh, the host and executive producer of San Diego Living, which is the popular children's book review segment that I'm blessed to be able to co-host. Empowered Publicity sponsors each and every month on the CBS affiliate here in San Diego, CBS 8, the CW San Diego. If you are a children's author and would like to have your brand new children's book be featured on Empowering Reads for Kids with myself and Laura Kavanaugh, to be able to inspire the children, parents, families, and educators here in San Diego, you can connect with us via our official website or any of our social media platforms on screen. And of course, if you're interested in learning more about how we can be of service to you at Empowered Publicity, as we are now almost entering our 8th year of service of PR from the heart. If you're interested in facilitating your own book and media tour in a city of your choosing, if you're interested in facilitating a television interview leading into the back to school season, leading into the holiday season, if you're interested in learning about more information about the children's book Spotlight series or a media coaching and mentoring program, you can schedule your own courtesy discovery call by heading on over to our official website, empoweredpublicity.com, and seeing how we can be of service to you. So once again, one final time, the 3 books featured on this month's Bookcast for the month of June: Corey Ann Abreu's award-winning Before I Was Born, Victoria Hyla Maldonado's Bartleby the Brave, and again, Michael Rodriguez, Oloo, and Hodjat, hopefully I'm pronouncing your name correctly, Yahooty Who, Celebrating Differences. They are now all available. If Amazon is your preferred online vehicle of your choosing, you can leave 5-star reviews for Corey Ann, for Victoria, and for Michael, Jen, and Ray, or you can head on over to all 3 authors' official websites, which we've included in the description below as well. You can stay connected with Corey Ann, with Victoria, and with the Yahooty Who team on social media as well. And again, if you would like to head on over to your local library or your favorite independent or children's bookstore to see if the books are available, wonderful. If they're not, of course, kindly ask, don't demand, but kindly ask that they have the books in stock as well too. And the second little tip of the cap that we'd like to give, of course, someone that David knew for quite a long period of time, he's still with us in spirit, and that is, of course, Mr. Rogers. He reminded us throughout episodes of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood and many of his commencement speeches, talks across the country, and especially when he received his Lifetime Achievement Emmy Award shortly before he passed. He always reminded us in different ways that we're loved, we're whole, we're healthy, we're complete, just the way that we are. He would always like to say that 1, 4, 3, that was his way of saying that I love you. Somehow, as Yo-Yo Ma said in Won't You Be My Neighbor, the Mr. Rogers documentary, somehow he did the 143-pound thing for his whole life. How did he do that? Well, we like to say 2, 4, 3 here at the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, because there's 2 letters in we, 4 letters in love, and 3 letters in you. So you and your little ones, you are perfect, you are whole, you are healthy, you are complete, you are loved, you are special, just the way that you are. So we like you, we love you, just the way that you are. David, any final words for our listeners and viewers, for our friends and neighbors, and for our fellow shining stars for the month of June?
Yes, I hope our bookcast inspired you to be brave and to make your own Yahooty. That'll be a challenge. So look in the dryer for those extra socks and make your own Yahooty.
Yes.
Speed delivery.
Yes, and also to all of the moms out there as well too, because Corey Ann's Before I Was Born. To all of the moms out there, we want to give a little tip of the cap to you as well in the process. Next month is going to be very special. because here at Empowered Publicity, throughout the month of July, we are probably going to be celebrating our 7-year anniversary, and one very special trolley stop will be our next here on the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. We'll already be at episode number 5, where we're almost as old as the number of fingers on our hand, David. We're going to be turning 5 episodes old next month, so we look forward to reconnecting with all of you next month for episode number 5 of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, as we proudly celebrate our 7-year anniversary here at Empowered Publicity. So we want to thank all of you, our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, and of course our fellow shining stars, for your support of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, for your support of children's authors and illustrators across the country and around the world, for your support of independent and children's bookstores and local libraries, for the wonderful services that they provide, for your support of children's literature. There's so much magic that's just found within the course of the pages of children's books. But above all else, as we like to say here at the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast and Empowered Publicity, we want to thank you for helping us to walk home, children of the world. This has been episode number 4 of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. For myself, John Masiulionis, for Private Citizen Newell, David Newell, we look forward to seeing all of you once again very soon in the month of July for episode number 5 of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. Until then, have a blessed start to your summer. Enjoy the month of June, and we'll see all of you once again very soon. Goodbye for now, and thank you for helping again to walk home the children of the world.